Welcome to Valar Atomics update number 4. This episode is not officially sponsored by Lucy, but John Coogan did send us a nice big box of various types of Lucy. So, I guess partially sponsored by Lucy. Thank you, John.
Sponsored, yeah, or supported by Lucy.
Supported by Lucy.
Enabled, made possible by Lucy.
Made possible, yes. This nicotine addiction made possible by Lucy Gum.
There we go. And you are?
I'm Isaiah Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO here at Valar Atomics.
And I'm Mark Mitchell, the Chief Nuclear Officer at Valar Atomics.
And
one day we're going to get that right.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Probably won't. I think that'll just be our running bit that nobody knows who we are. We don't really know either. Welcome to another update. We had a couple things to talk about this week. We threw an awesome party last night.
We did. It's LA Tech Week. I know this will go out probably next week.
Yeah, probably. So a week ago was LA Tech Week. It's a lot of fun.
Isaiah, we pretty much stick to our own work at Valar. So it's nice to have people come in the building. We see some strangers from time to time.
Yeah.
But I guess you've been doing a lot more around LA Tech Week. What have you seen? What's happening?
I haven't done too much around LA Tech Week. We are pretty, we have our, nose to the grindstone, something like that.
We do.
We're working pretty hard, but it was awesome to actually have people here in the facility, put eyes on the reactor. I don't know if you can see in the cameras, but we kind of stacked some of the graphite around like it is inside of the core, which is really cool because you can see how the core is configured. We also have this mat, this printout that we printed out in the early days of Valar, early last year, and we wanted to be very connected to what we're building. We're building an actual nuclear reactor, real hardware. And so before we add any real hardware, we're like, why don't we print out a 1-to-1 sheet of a cross section of exactly what we're building? That's actually been awesome because we can, we walked, over it every day coming into the office, and now it's still sitting there on the floor, but there's the real reactor behind it. So
yeah, I think a thing that struck me. I mean, it's great. It's great. LA Tech Week's vibrant. Gundo is amazing.
Yeah.
I think we welcomed everyone to El Segundo while standing in Hawthorne.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
I don't know how that worked.
We're in the extended Gundoverse.
Yeah, we're just outside. We're like a block max.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Extended Gundoverse starts from LAX all the way down to Orange County. I think we can even count Andoril in the extended Gundoverse if we're being generous.
Yes.
To us. To Gundo.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So
I feel that anyone from Orange County would object.
Yeah, that's probably true. They don't own us; we own them. Fun.
Okay.
No, it was great to have everybody here. Look at a real nuclear reactor. We had the head of the reactor out in the middle of our cocktail area, which was awesome because people can put hands on hardware. And nuclear has not been what you would call a hardware-rich industry for a while. There's this concept of being hardware-rich, where you actually build a lot of hardware, which means you can test it a lot. And that's not something we've seen in nuclear for a long time, and it's something we pursued really, really early on. So,
and it's good. It gets the engineers, it gets us sorted, it gets our product out there. But I think there are two other thoughts I had about it. Right, the first thing that was quite great was, people are still blown away when they visit and they ask, "Can I take a photo?" It's like, yeah, sure, of course.
Talk about that because nuclear is generally a black box, right?
Yeah, hide it away,
it's
lock
a
it away.
Pandora's box. What are we doing here? Why are we letting people are looking at their nuclear reactor behind us right now? What's up with that?
Yep. Well, I say is that the only thing will slow our competition down is if we give them the plans for what we did. We can't give them the plans for what we learned. We can only show them what we did. Yeah. But it's not that. It's not about competition. Nuclear is at the same time a super secretive industry and also super transparent.
Yeah.
And I think we just don't see the benefit in the secretive side. Let's talk about it. I think people think that there are 10 companies who signed up under the DOE reactor pilot program. Let me think of last night. I think at least people from the two of the other companies were here.
Yeah.
Having at the party, hanging out with us.
Yep. Asking how this works, how that works. We're explaining the hardware.
There were a bunch of guys from the investment world. So there's probably were investors in several other companies.
Yeah.
To me, it's not a competition. This is I always use the analogy of running a marathon, which is really something that, when you look at me, you think that guy, he runs marathons.
that guy knows how to run a marathon.
Yeah, I know how to run a marathon. But you see, I can always improve on my time, right? And I guess to me, this is more about several people running in a race to do something, not not to be the first, right? I mean, sure, there's probably bragging rights if you're the first guy to switch on your reactor, but if your reactor's on, it's on.
Yeah, and there are so many reactors to build. Like, the amount of energy that we need is enormous. I think especially in the Western world, we've been underinvesting in energy for a long time. We had this moment where we're trying to pick between coal and nuclear, which one's going to power the future. We sort of picked neither.
Yep.
And then like natural gas kind of came in and saved the day at the last minute. But there's so much to build. If all of us were completely successful and built as many reactors as we could, we still wouldn't have built enough energy.
True. And I think we're in new technology, right?
Yep.
We're not just trying to build the same thing again. We believe, as fundamentally as possible, that there are better ways to do it.
Yes.
Ways that'll be more economical, have better safety characteristics, be easier to accept from the public. And you know what? That also means we have to try a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we can make any one of these 10 or 11 reactors in the pilot program work. But which one will really resonate? Which one will hit the mark? We already know it's this one. Spoiler alert. But I would say that there's no harm in having more ideas out there and more people working on new and interesting things.
Yeah.
So digression from our 3-point plan, but we're talking about how open this part of the industry is. I mean, between us, we spoke to basically the leads or high up people at all of the 10, right? So this is one of our guys had an idea. Let's have a session. There's a big nuclear conference, the ANS winter meeting. It happens every year in DC, early November. And we're saying, well, this is happening really quickly. I think the meeting was probably planned way before the EO even came out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And next November several of these reactors should have gone critical already. So we're kind of planning to set up a short tech session and just have representatives come and tell and just let people understand what we're up to. We're doing a lot of work here. We've got a lot of ideas, but we're not taking the time to tell people.
Yeah. I think this is a really good shift for the industry. It's really good for the public to understand what we're doing here, what we're building. I mean, we had people in here last night who had no idea how a nuclear reactor works at all. Yeah, which is awesome.
And not all of them worked for Valar.
That's right. Yeah, some of them were even from outside the building.
Sorry, that's just an acknowledgement of our Reddit fan club.
That's right. Yeah. Shout out to our fans. But I mean, we sat underneath the head of the nuclear reactor last night, having a drink, talking to people.
That was the VIP room.
Yeah, the VIP room is underneath the head, and it was great because we get to just talk about like what is the basics of nuclear fission? What are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to split atoms, which make heat. You can do a bunch of really useful things with high temperature heat. And somebody left knowing a little bit more than they did before. And I think this is very, very good for this to become a civilizational scale technology, right? We shouldn't have a civilizational scale technology which is hidden inside a box that nobody understands.
Yeah. It's like not some nuclear shouldn't be some like magic priesthood or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a thing that we're all going to work very hard to build together.
Yes.
We also had an announcement yesterday. Janus, Project Janus.
Janus, yeah.
I don't know if it's Project Janus or Janus Program, something like that. The U.S. Army.
It's actually the Juliet Alpha November Uniform Sierra.
That's right.
That's what it is.
Yes.
I'm glad I did that right.
The U.S. That could have gone very poorly. You nailed that one. The U.S. Army is looking at how to scale nuclear power on military bases. This is something they've been working on for a long time. I mean, it's probably 8 or 9 years since Pele started, and there was consideration before that, but there's this long process that they've been engaged in to figure out how do we actually provide stable power on military bases domestically and around the world. A couple people have been thinking and working very hard on that, and now it's coming into a proper mechanism for deploying that and funding it.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Waxman tweeted that this is going to change the industry. I would challenge that, but I think what you can see from this is that the industry has changed, right? Like when they started Pele 8-9 years ago, or the seeds of Pele even, the area to find people, get them interested, get them to bid, fund a bunch of work.
Yeah.
And now it looks like they're going to bid it, right?
Yep.
There are enough companies that are mature enough in the industry that they could actually have a bidding process and buy something off the shelf.
And I think that's a really exciting part of how this is structured, is that it's very, Jeff has talked about this, but it's very explicitly formed after the NASA COTS program.
Right.
And the idea with NASA COTS is that you wanted to pay for capability, right? They wanted to pay the private market to competitively deliver the, commercial shipping to the International Space Station.
Yeah.
Rather than, give us your costs and we'll add 20% of profit onto it and whatever it is. It's, there's a price, and if you can hit it,
you get the price. Yeah.
Then you get the price, and that is a very powerful thing. I think this is going to actually allow cream to rise to the top, the companies who can deliver to deliver. So that's very exciting. Yeah.
One of our neighbors in El Segundo, I guess, is what we call Hawthorne now.
Yeah.
Did very well out of that, right?
Greater Gundo. Yeah.
Yep. The Greater Gundo. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's proving a credible way. It means that they don't have to, government doesn't have to take it on themselves to pick the winner.
Exactly.
And like this DOE pilot program as well. Same thing, right? We're not. We didn't have to compete just on the basis of ideas. We compete on actual performance.
Exactly.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is really the only way to ensure that nuclear steps forward, is that we don't get to know today at the very top. We think Valar is the best technology, right?
We wouldn't be here if we didn't. Yeah.
But if we're wrong, then it's going to be discovered.
Yes.
Right. And everyone gets to discover it. If we don't have a reactor turned on, then there you go.
Well, we should talk more about that, right? Because people in the industry, like they've got their reactor, their perfect reactor that they've designed since they were, in college, and they've been sharpening the calculations of the PowerPoints. And when you say we think Valar's going to have the best technology, but we sure don't think that's the best technology.
Absolutely.
Right. That's a
we know there's really only one thing that we know about that, and that it's not.
It's not the best. Yeah. That's what I say. We can give you the drawings. Anyone want them? You can have them.
Yeah. Bring us up.
Yeah. We're not going to give you the drawings to the next one yet. But,
exactly. And that really is the point. We think that we have to discover this. We have to discover what the best technology is.
Yeah. We're not going to get it right straight out.
Yeah.
But maybe that brings us to the point, right? Because I think we spoke a little about Ward 250, what we call the plant in Utah, and we talk about Ward 0. And how do we get from 0 to 250? Sorry. But I like it. Yeah. How do we get from 0 to 250?
Yep.
And maybe we should just lay out some of that, right? Because, we started with this.
Yep.
I guess,
The early days of Valar, the goal was we're going to build as small a nuclear reactor as we can simply, right? So there's a funny thing. If you try to make a reactor too small, it actually becomes more complicated. Yep. Right. So it wasn't, we're going to build as small a nuclear reactor as possible.
Yeah, it's like sort of an optimum.
Right. We're going to build as small a nuclear reactor as is simple.
Yes.
And the smallness is nice because it's less expensive, right? There's just fewer.
So we can steal the concept of the dumbass index.
Yes.
Like something a dumbass can do.
Yep. Yeah. It's just so simple. We can use very simple materials, simple construction methods.
Yep.
There's not that much CapEx flowing off the balance sheet. It's something we can do very quickly. But we built it to be a real nuclear reactor. Now, we weren't sure yet if we were going to be able to turn this one on right here. Our idea was we're going to build a reactor. We're going to put a lot of electrical power into it. We're going to take it up to pressure and temperature. And then we're going to learn a bunch of lessons from that, rebuild it in the Philippines as Ward 1. That is exactly what's happening in the Philippines. That's our Ward 1 project. We're essentially going to rebuild this with some lessons learned, turn that one on. But the nice thing about building a nuclear reactor in that way is now you have a nuclear reactor.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean that's true. But I guess there's this whole DOE pilot program and our approach is going to open us to a lot of questions.
Yep.
Right. So let's unpack some of the questions. Right. So the first thing is, is this a nuclear reactor? Like what actually here would have to change to go nuclear?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. There's a couple of things that we need to change. First of all, we need different graphite.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. What is nuclear graphite?
Just pure graphite. It's so when I say that, what I mean is it has high levels of purity. So I don't know if you know that, but graphite is about the purest industrially manufactured material that, especially made in great great volume.
Yeah.
It was one of the first industrially made. I think Acheson made the first graphite in the early 1800s.
Yep.
And it's essentially pure carbon.
Yep.
With, maybe parts per million, 150, say, parts per million of other things in it. But for nuclear, it's not that it wouldn't work, just any graphite you buy, but you do better if you buy purer graphite.
Yep.
You waste less neutrons.
Yep.
So we want to buy some pure nuclear grade graphite.
Yeah.
And
So
just bear in mind, we say nuclear grade, that sounds super sophisticated. Just clean.
yeah, it's cleaner. Grains are a little bit nicer for some things.
Yep.
But also we need to cut the holes differently because
Yeah.
these ones here, we got a bunch of holes cut them in for heaters and instruments and all kind of stuff that we've loaded into this core. And the next load of graphite has fewer different holes to be able to load our nuclear fuel inside.
So the next thing, of course, is some of those holes we're going to fill with fuel. Right. Now,
a big
I think last week, try to get the weeks right. Last week we spoke about nuclear fuel a bit and what we're doing to set up fuel. We're really excited that this is going to become a commodity one day. But at the moment, we have to put an extra effort to get the fuel.
Yeah.
So probably we'll circle back to that in a future discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe do a walk through our fuel plant and look at all of it there. What else?
Well, we got to add a few more instruments to it.
True. Yeah, nuclear instruments, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't put down any real nuclear technology here. We didn't put down any instruments for measuring radiation or fluxes in the core.
Yep.
We didn't put down a nuclear protection system.
Yep.
So while we've got control rods that we can move up and down, in principle, they're not coupled up as they would be in a nuclear reactor. So
Not getting direct feedback from radiation monitoring
Yep.
and these sorts of things that would actually shut down the core in a dangerous scenario.
So that it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a crazy scope of work. That's why we thought we could actually volunteer and take on the ambitious target of July the 4th.
The hardest thing we have to do is actually build the building. The building
Turns out.
is actually the hard part. Construction's hard. So,
I was wondering how long it would take us to get around to blasting.
yep,
Seems like we got there.
we got there.
Insert gratuitous blasting montage.
We showed it last week, but here it is again because
Bang.
it's sick.
Oh, yep, there we go. Returning, welcome, returning listeners.
Yep.
So I think we were talking a little bit before this, and what we realized is that anything you do quickly opens you up to the criticism that you were unsafe. I remember, I think Governor Cox of Utah actually saying to us, name drop alert.
Yeah,
we should have a little name drop alert here. But he was saying to us, look, fast isn't unsafe, slow isn't safe.
Yep.
Don't confuse those two issues.
Yep. Speed and safety are just two completely different concepts.
Yes.
There are plenty examples in history of people going very slow and getting a terrible outcome.
Yep.
Or going very fast and getting a great outcome. And I also would point out that being able to iterate and test is what drives safety.
Yeah.
So if you look at something like cars, right? So look at automobiles, right? The car that you would have driven down the highway in 1950 had a very good chance of killing you, right?
We specifically the early 50s. We don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
you swerve this way.
Yeah.
Now you're into the median, and guess what? That's a hard body.
Yep.
Hard body car. There's no crumple zone. You're just going through the windshield. It's really bad.
Yep.
And what changed that, right? Why are cars so much safer now? They changed through iteration, right? They changed through somebody making the front of that crumple zone, crumple a little bit more. They added seatbelts eventually. They added airbags. Now we have, cars that actually will hit the brakes before you collide with an object. All of these things.
I did that twice in lunchtime.
Yeah,
well, I didn't. My car did.
The auto brake, yeah. So these things actually move forward through iteration.
Yes.
And iteration is something that's a function of time between tests.
Yes.
Right. So time between real hardware.
Yeah, you gotta like if you make something, then you test it. You must be around to learn from the test.
Exactly.
And make the next thing to lock it in, right?
And that's even true within like teams and organizations, right?
Yep.
So like imagine if your time between tests were a decade.
Yep.
Which is generally what it's been in nuclear or even longer.
Probably optimistically, yeah.
Half your team is moved on.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, It's worse than that. I think half the team that starts the project doesn't finish the project either.
Exactly.
So so there's no iterative learning.
Right, and you have to go through those iterations and see each one. Right?
Yep.
A significant core of the team has to have been there in design, learned their lessons from that design, learned their lessons from the next one. So time between iteration actually drives safety to a significant degree.
100%. I mean, and that drives it from like that's the team dynamics and the quality improvement and stuff. But also, you've never flown on a commercial airliner that hasn't been flight tested.
Exactly. Yes.
So and it's not, it wasn't the first one they flight tested.
Yeah.
That was the certification airframe or whatever they call
it's
it.
generation 24 by the time it actually gets all the way through.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to duplicate, that mindset, that way of doing things.
Yeah.
But now the question is, if we built this and had it standing in the shop, was it safe? Is it safe, or is it good enough for our mission? Right. So we should probably unpack that.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is where codes and standards play a big part.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of thinking that's been done in many industrial settings over a long period of time on how do you stay safe around metal and pressure and heat and all of these sorts of things.
And this is something that's close to my heart. I work on ASME codes, nuclear codes. But I think what's important, from how I think of it is, first, everything here was built to good industrial codes and standards. It was built to good practice. And that's because we just don't want to hurt ourselves.
Yes.
Or, even worse. Have
we kind of like our team members.
Yes. And we like all their body parts.
Yeah. We like our guests and investors. Yeah.
Yes.
We value them.
So no shortcuts whatsoever, right? So and you can do things without shortcuts. You can do them quickly.
Yes.
It's not doing something quickly doesn't mean you need to take a shortcut. You just have to do things quicker.
Yep.
So what we've got here is full industrial codes. Fully validated. It's an industrial facility operating in Los Angeles in California, which I'm told is highly regulated in the US. So so it's a good product, right?
Yeah.
So the only question is now nuclear.
Yes.
Right? What does nuclear add to the requirements?
Yep.
The nuclear safety issue is it's about pieces of equipment doing what they need to well enough, reliably enough.
Yes.
And we had a chat last week about functional containment, and one of the questions is, well, we're not using a nuclear pressure vessel.
Yeah.
But actually, the NRC is in principle comfortable that for a reactor with functional containment, Section 8 pressure vessel should work.
Yeah.
Because the Section 3 pressure vessels are made differently with different standards to make sure that they never leak.
Yeah.
And in our case, leaking the helium out of the reactor is not the safety issue.
Yep.
So the standards it just so happens because of the concept we chose.
Yeah.
That these standards work.
Yeah.
Can't say they work for anyone. I can't say any kind of reactor standing here, if this was a pressurized water-cooled reactor, probably not, right?
Yeah.
But in our case, it works.
Yeah, and I'm a high school dropout, as Reddit knows very well. So for the high school dropout in the room, educate me real quick. Would you say that the principal thing that we're concerned about in this reactor, regards to nuclear safety, is not overheating the fuel?
Yeah. I mean, so the and I'm really bad at this because rabbit holes are all over. But it's very simple: is that the fuel's held inside the TRISO.
Yeah.
There's a ceramic pressure vessel. The only way it gets out there essentially is that the TRISO gets too hot.
Yeah.
And this is really hot, right? So if the TRISO gets hot, it starts to fail. It doesn't not all the TRISO fails at once. There's millions and millions of particles, and they start one or two pop, and then a couple more, and eventually it starts to release.
Yeah.
But that can only happen if you get it hot enough.
Yeah. And then when we talk about overheating the fuel as being the thing that we're trying to avoid, I think the thing that's beautiful about this particular architecture is that you can actually do a lot of that at the physics level.
Yes.
Before you get to systems.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of that at the physics level. Take me through that. Like, what are we doing at the physics level that helps us be certain that the fuel is not going to overheat?
It's actually really easy. So if the amount it heats up has to do with the balance between the amount of energy that's being deposited in the core on the one hand, and the amount of energy leaking out of the core,
Yeah.
the heat, right? And if you've got a lot more heat in the core, then it's being leaked out, then it gets hotter. And if you do that long enough, if you can keep that balance that way, you can eventually get to the temperature, to any temperature you need. But the beauty of this is that this reactor basically leaks heat better than it generates heat, especially in this format. So that makes it really good for testing, because if we in any way remove active heat generation, so generation through nuclear fuel or feeding it from a heater or something, the reactor just cools down. And that means
pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly, and well, actually, even better, it's not that quickly. It's not instant. It's in hours. Which is nice, because it means we don't have to do anything very quickly ourselves. So the less frisky, the better, I guess, is how I think of the reactor. But so you got this sort of very slow, very forgiving reactor that kind of is very stable. It always wants to come back to this safe position. So when we're testing, we can push it a little bit and let it return. That I think is what makes this so strong and makes it possible that we can even credibly consider testing as quickly as 4th of July. So I think people mistake the fact that maybe they think we're trying to build a gigawatt class light water reactor in like 10 months.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Yes, that would be just plain impossible. Or an equivalent sort of scope technology, size technology, level of hazard. We're doing something completely different.
This thing's kind of a gentle giant.
It is.
It's a slow moving machine that gives us there's a lot of forgiveness built into it. We like that about it.
Indeed. But it doesn't change that when we split the atom.
That's right.
Everything changes.
Everything changes. Well, thanks for joining us on update number 4.
Yep, number 4. Wow.